Good morning. So today we have, this is an action item to approve resolution VBD 25-003 and the priorities for transit, pedestrian, and bike improvements to be included in the Ada County Highway District 5-year work plan for this fiscal year 2025. A couple things. What's the 5-year work plan? What selection criteria do we use? Is it not showing up?
What's going on with the presentation?
There we go. So I'll go over what is the 5-year work plan, the VRT selection criteria, what the project categories are, and what project VRT is recommending this year. So first, 5-year work plan is capital improvement plan that ACHD does. They update it annually with input from their partner agencies. This includes VRT. Some of the criteria that VRT uses when we select projects and prioritize them is one, is it located on a premium corridor or any of our transit corridors? What the ridership experience is, does the project improve access, location, or infrastructure? Does the project improve our operations? Does it include promote safety and ease of use for our riders? And are other funding partners interested? And is the project already funded? It meets many of these criteria will move to the list higher than others. The project categories that are included in the 5-year work plan are categorized as program, which means funded, unprogrammed, not funded. The roads and intersections section, which focuses on vehicle capacity, and community programs, which focuses on pedestrian projects. Some of the highlights from our priorities, most of our project priorities are in the design phase only, with a few projects identifying right-of-way acquisition or construction phases. Of course, our biggest priority is improvements on State Street and Fairview, as well as pedestrian safety and access to bus stops. This year, we included in our list whether or not the project was in the high injury network, which ACHD has identified as a priority, and we added 5 new projects on top of what we had in previous years. The 5 new projects included the Franklin and Black Cat intersection. Currently, we don't have bus stops right at the intersection. They're a little farther away due to some design issues, and the pedestrian connectivity could be improved in that area. At Elder and Vista, we also need pedestrian improvements at that intersection. Orchard Street, Emerald, and Franklin, again, more pedestrian improvements so that our riders can reach bus stops. At Goddard Road and Capitol High School, the city's looking at doing a cycle track along the Glenwood intersection. We also have Capitol High, which is mid-block. That's where we would be looking to put bus stops mid-block for the Capitol High students with a pedestrian crossing. And then Elder Street, Vista to Oahe. Along the Elder Street corridor, there's good pedestrian connections, but once you go north onto Oahe, the pedestrian connections aren't as good. And that's where some of the school and other destinations are. And there's also a proposed hotel going in that area. Some of the recommended projects under each of the categories we talked about, of course, State Street corridor remains a top priority for VRT. As you know, we still have the projects that we previously had in a piecemeal fashion within the in the 5-year work plan. To continue designing those, as well as access to opportunity to improve pedestrian and transit facilities on Fairview and Franklin. Under the unprogrammed list, Fairview, continuing to improve the Fairview corridor is a priority. Pioneer and River Street, Franklin and Black Cat, which we already mentioned, Elder and Vista, and then Warm Springs and Millspur. Under community program lists, we have Orchard and Fairview on-ramp, which would improve operations with a left turn lane signal for transit only. We also have various number of other locations around the city, Vista and Broadway corridor, Goddard at Capitol High, Elder Street to Oahe, and Orchard down Flint. So with that, I would answer any questions.
I could add, ACHD's 5-year work plan is always a big if you will, that we think are most. Whoops, sorry, didn't realize that wasn't on. Are to me the things that are most important with the action that you all could take today. So a little more context to some of the items that that Kate talked about. On Elder Street, there's a new county facility and there's 2 new service facilities for various community service providers, including some from the refugee community. So having access to a bus stop, safe access to a bus stop is extremely important for that site right now because of all of the new activity that's happening there. I think even in light of what happened at the legislature this year, I know there's just really no way to know what impact that's going to have because I think the law is vague. In places where ACHD and its partners can better identify the need for pedestrian and other facilities to make those places safe, I think that they'll be on much firmer footing to make investments in those places. So if we can emphasize that, we don't have a letter yet, but that is one that I would like to emphasize. At Capitol High School, there's an interesting, right now we go clear past the high school and around to the back and let students off at the back entrance. It's not the entrance that other students use, and it's not particularly convenient in some ways to where many of the classes are. So we would like to put a stop on the way in to the school right across from the entrance to the parking lot, which is where almost all other students enter the school and get to their classes. To do that safely, we really need to put a crossing there because right now it's mid-block and there's no light, there's no RFB, no crosswalk signed, any of that. And so it's a little bit bigger project than just putting a bus stop in. It's actually creating the infrastructure needed to make it safe to put a bus stop there. But we believe that it would be a lot more attractive place for many students who are coming from the north to Capitol High to alight off of the bus. And then Fairview Avenue, we leaned into frequent service on the Fairview corridor. There's a lot of projects in here that talk about beginning to do the things to make that corridor more useful and easier to use, more attractive for transit users. And then there's one that makes it actually easier for our bus drivers to drive it. And that is the left turn from Orchard onto the connector to get back downtown. Right now, there's no signal there. They often have to wait, especially at peak hour, to make that left turn. So getting improvements there would be really helpful. The other thing I think that we read into the intent of the actions that were taken by the legislature is that many of the things we do meet the intent of that. We do reduce congestion. We do move people quicker. We do make the roadways more efficient. And so I think that there's good reason to lean into some of these and help our partner ACHD figure out a way to continue to serve all of the people in Ada County and not just the people in cars. And then finally, the Black Cat and Franklin, so you'll see during the budget presentations this year that the reroute of the Route 45 between CWI and BSU has been extremely successful. We have over 100% growth in ridership on that route. And besides serving CWI and downtown Boise, that route serves downtown Meridian. It serves many of the workplaces along Franklin to the west. And one of the places that we're asking for an opportunity to put a new stop is one of those. And so again, just one of those things that we think can make our services more attractive, safer, and better for transit users overall, which we believe helps everyone who's trying to travel on the roads.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, I have, clarify with me yeah, I think you said there were 5 things that were operational things. You said access, operation, safety. What were the 5
The criteria,
criteria?
yeah, ridership experience, funding.
Okay, access, operation, safety, ridership, and funding. Those were the criteria that you use for establishing your priorities.
3 of them.
I guess I have a question. What exactly is going to be happening? Because we just have to, as Elaine just said, the Elder Street. What is going to actually be happening at the Elder Street? It says on the analysis, improve pedestrian facilities. What does that mean in terms of operate all the criteria that you just mentioned?
It means, well, at this point, it's under the unfunded section. We're trying to put it in there so that ACHD will consider it a priority for design in the future. So at this point, just conceptually, we would like to have better pedestrian connections to the bus stop. So currently the bus stop on the Elder Street corridor is at the Elder and Vista intersection. There isn't complete sidewalk connectivity all the way down there, and it's a little ways from particularly the county facility. And so trying to make sure, I mean, one of the things that we've been looking at is a scooter corral and where we can park micro mobility devices so that riders from the county facility would be able to get to the bus stop quicker. And so some of that requires signage and infrastructure improvements.
So Commissioner Daly, we actually did a site visit out there and walked with both county folks and some of the community service folks. And so as Kate said, some micro mobility devices at the bus stop would be helpful. It's about a half-mile walk. Many people are capable of that, but the micro mobility devices will make it a little bit easier. We identified at least 3 crosswalks that are not marked, that could be marked, and that will allow drivers to understand that there is likely to be pedestrians there so that everyone's safer. We also identified gaps in the sidewalk. So there's sidewalk on the north side and not on the south side as you move down Elder Street. And so filling in some of those sidewalk gaps. And then finally, when you get to the end of Elder and I can't remember the cross street, where you would be heading north, that intersection is really ill-defined right now. Both for drivers and pedestrians. And so doing something with that intersection to better define where everybody's space is so that people can be safe and they know that they're in the right space. So those were primarily the activities we identified. It hasn't been designed. It's only been conceptually looked at. And so what we're asking is that they actually go in and design it and then find a funding year.
Because that facility, as you all know, is going to be well used, and
Yeah.
we appreciate the fact that there is going to be transportation there. So Vista and Elder is the closest to the to our Elder facility.
It is. We used to have service on Elder Street, but it was very infrequent, once an hour and not very long span of service. So frankly, wouldn't have served that facility very well. The Vista service is very frequent. It's every 15 minutes. And the span of service is quite long. It goes till 10 at night, starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so in any case, that would have been the better service for this site. That bus on Elder Street wouldn't have been as useful. And so making sure that folks can get from Vista to the site, I think is really important. As I mentioned, most people are capable of walking it, although some folks can have mobility challenges. So that's another thing we've been trying to figure out is for those folks who do have those challenges, what can we do? One last thing that I didn't mention is wayfinding, which would direct people to where everything is. And I think it's not that far, but if you don't know where you're going, it can seem like a long ways.
Another question, Madam Chair? And this was probably for Elaine as well. The Fairview corridor, because you did increase based on what we requested, the increased frequency on Fairview, is the ridership statistics, is that part of what prompted this? You're working with ACHD in terms of the need along that corridor because there is increased usage along the Fairview corridor?
There is. So sort of a weird little secret of transit. When you make a big service change, it usually takes people a little while to find it, and your ridership doesn't go up right away. But surprisingly, the ridership on the Fairview has actually gone up quite a bit already, even in the, not a little over 6 months since we made those changes. And so because of that increased ridership, which we expected, we now have a better idea where the bulk of the boardings and alightings are happening. And so we can focus on improvements in those places that are getting the most use.
I would just add, it's our second highest ridership route now after the Route 9. The Route 9's averaging, 15,000 a month, and Fairview is just kind of right under that at 12, 13. So, and we expect that to get higher.
That's good. That's what we were hoping from that.
It is. It's been successful.
I guess my overall, because I have some other questions, but I don't want to take up all of our time, but it appears that the ACHD is focusing on that as opposed to the transportation part, which is our focus, is the transportation. Obviously, these other things, access and but operations is our primary focus. But obviously, they have to have access in order to participate in the operations. And safety, of course, always is important. But how did you determine out of the 13 that are listed here for us, and not that isn't the complete list, but the 13 that are on our list, how did you determine that the primary focus was pedestrian? Because there's only one of them that mentions something other than pedestrian. That's the Orchard Fairview on-ramp. All the others mention pedestrians as your focus. Back to what Elaine was talking in terms of the legislature.
Well, particularly for the bus stop, one of our other big infrastructure focuses is always bus stops and locations of bus stops. And typically we're able to do a lot of those during their projects that the ACHD already has going on, that we're able to piggyback and comment on those and get the bus stops added. So, and frankly, adding a bus stop pad is a pretty easy thing for ACHD to add for us. And it's also fairly easy for developers to add to us, which is another way that we get bus stop pads. Our biggest concerns that are a little bit harder to meet is the sidewalk connectivity, because we don't just need an 8x5 sidewalk. We need, sidewalks connecting the entire blocks and the side streets of a quarter of a mile. And those are typically much bigger projects that need, I guess, VRT supporting ACHD in that endeavor so that our riders can get to those bus stops.
And I would add to that, if you read the new law, it says that highway districts can't build standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects except in specific locations near schools, parks, and other designated bicycle and pedestrian areas. We believe, because of the unique role that we play, that these should be those designated bicycle and pedestrian areas. And we think that it will help them clarify where they can and can't lean into new facilities.
I guess my question is because we have funding, as you know, and funding if we don't mix and match in terms of the funding, we are going to be having sidewalks where we don't have buses or bus stops where we don't have enough money to provide the other operational side of the connectivity. So I guess it seems to be me that a better mix in terms of the operation vis-a-vis the access and the safety. There needs to be a better mix. It just, when I focused on that, it was all focusing on one side, not the other. I think that's basically my interpretation. What the legislature wanted is a mix of things, not necessarily one primary focus. And it seems to me that this focus is just on one item of the total equation, and all of them are important parts. But
So I'll jump in just to clarify, Commissioner, what you're saying is that with these, the VRT should focus on all the different elements of impact that the requests have, rather than just the people part of it? Or are you asking for new proposals?
well, I'm asking. I don't disagree with the needs that are here. The mix of needs I don't think are adequately met, I guess is what I'm saying. Because there are multiple needs. There always will be. It's just a matter of how much money we have to spend on all of the needs. And I don't think the mix, in answer to your question, Madam Chair, is yes. I think the mix needs to be better sorted out. And that's not our decision, it's theirs. But ours is in terms of supporting the proposal as they presented it to us.
Certainly take that into account when we write the letter about these. Many of these also do propose to make infrastructure improvements to roadways that will serve everyone in that intersection or that location. So I can make sure and note that in the letter.
Thanks for your questions and
Thank you.
feedback. I'll take a motion. We don't have a motion on the floor. I need an executive committee member to make a motion.
I move to approve resolution VEB 25-003.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion?
I decided, many times I make motions, but I thought since this is an Ada County ACHD, I thought I'm not going to make a motion. It's important that it covers.
Thank you. We appreciate
Well,
that.
it is important, but staff, thank you for your work. We appreciate the work of staff because we couldn't do what we do with plans and the work that gets done. Thank you.
Anything further?
Madam Chair, I'll just also echo thanks. Having only a few years ago been using a bus that I had to navigate a mulched flower bed on a downward slope to get to the bus stop. That stop has been improved a bit over in the Millspur Warm Springs area, but just really appreciate that focus on the whole experience for our users.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I would oppose it based on what I said. Not that I oppose it in terms of the concept and the need, but just I think it's my way to make a recommendation to them that they analyze what they're doing in a different way.
All right, ayes have it. And I would say, I think there's much more to be determined with the exact language of the bill and the impact on it. And this is a great demonstration when VRT shows that for buses to work on the roads, so they too are a vehicle, we got to make it possible for people to be able to get on the buses. And all of that is part of developing a streets network in our county. So, thank you. Will the record reflect that Mayor Wagner has arrived? Welcome. Next up, we have some presentation from Elaine on pay and step scale comp schedules.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to have Jason Rose bring up my presentation for me. You all got the memo in the packet. Once a year, we conduct a market analysis of where our pay scale is. We indicate some measure of what we expect compensation increases might be and ask our HR analysis to tell us where the market is on that. So next slide. The main questions we ask them is there external equity? In other words, are our wages competitive with the market so that we don't lose, we don't have high turnover and end up spending a lot of time and money on training and bringing people on board. And then is there internal equity? Obviously within the organization, if the people who work there don't feel like they're being compensated fairly against their own peers internally, it doesn't work. And then what are the variations that they're seeing in that schedule? Next, please. So for this particular analysis, we ask our HR consultant to find areas that were similar to Boise in one way or another, primarily in budget and size of kind of region that they were in. And so she looked at Asheville, North Carolina, at Caldwell, at Lynchburg, Virginia, at Missoula, Montana, and at Reno, Nevada, primarily because we could find organizations in those places that had the same basic revenue that we do in their budget. And this was updated in November of 24. Next slide, please. If we do nothing, we examined 3 levels, equal, high, low. We benchmarked. We don't look at every position. We benchmarked some from each level. And we used current salary for that position and looked at mid-market. You all have seen the ways that these work. Pretty typical for how HR looks at these. Next slide. So right now, the base number, which our salary is established on, is $15.94 an hour. That's our lowest salary. Frankly, it's hardly a living wage, but higher than some. And then we examined 2 options using that base and up to not the CEO level, but up to the level below CEO. Stay the same and then increase by 2.5% and then re-examine for internal equity. Next slide. So if we stay the same, we still have 6 people who are lower than market minimum in our current salary schedule. So regardless of what we do, we have some people that we need to take care of to bring up to that market minimum. But there was no one that was too high or out of range on the upper end. I think what that says is we don't pay people very much here compared to the market. Next slide. If we increase 2.5%, there are 14 positions which are below market minimum, not very far, but a little bit. And again, none was too high or out of market range. So what we've suggested, and I know we haven't talked about budget yet, is that you allow us to develop a budget based on the 2.5% increase, knowing that that will cost us about $100,000 just to bring everybody up into the range, and then to do that 2.5%, about $20,000 to bring those 14 positions into range, and then another $80,000 to apply a 2.5% on top of that. And that we, if you agree to adopt this today, then we can develop the budget based on that and bring back to you a budget that identifies how we'll pay for that within the funding that we've identified.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
So maybe I'm missing something, but on the previous slide where it says there's 6 positions lower than market minimum, and then we flip the page and it says there's 14 positions. What am I missing?
So the difference is that the 6 positions are in today's salary range. If we increase the salary range to reflect a 2.5% increase, then there will be 14 positions that fall below that minimum, market minimum,
Because you're changing your
minimum rate.
is
Yeah.
going up by
It's
2.5%.
going up
And
slightly.
even with their 2.5% increase, it pushes them then out of it after, because we're moving it up by 2.5%.
Well, so,
So-
yeah, no, that's a good question. So yes, we could just apply the 2.5% and most of those 14 would come in, although you can see 6 are already out.
Okay.
But if we do that, what it means is those positions will still be at, likely will be at a lower rate than they might have earned time being here if you look at the full salary schedule. So if you bring them up to minimum before you apply the 2.5%, then you're recognizing that we've started them at a salary schedule that's already below.
So that's the question, is to bring them to market minimum and then apply the 2.5%.
Yes.
Basically, it's just a wage salary adjustment. And then what rank are these people that are out of range? Are they in your tier 1 and 2? Are they?
They're all over, but most of them are centered in the tier 4 and 5. There are a few up above that, but not very many.
But the total financial impact's only like 20,000. did we say?
20,000 to bring them all to market minimum. The adjustment pool would only be that, and then 80,000 to apply the 2.5%.
And is there any other merit increase being recommended, or is it only the 2.5% this year once you get the wage equity resolved?
We're starting here, to be honest, given the way the world is at the moment. We thought that despite the fact that we really haven't kept up with many of the wages around here, we thought this would at least be recognition for folks that they've earned some merit. So we would probably split this even with some merit and some COLA.
The total increase this year of 2.5% once we get the wage equity done, which is so wise to do. I mean, we have to do the wage equity and then apply it. So, perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anything further?
Jason, I don't think I put a slide with the action on this one. Sorry.
That's all right. It's in the packet. I take a motion a motion to direct the staff to develop a budget based on the salary adjustments and raise.
So moved.
The motion,
Is there a second?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have one information item which was in our packet. Staff, Dwayne, is Dwayne here?
We do have a short presentation on this, I believe.
Okay.
Is that right, Dwayne?
Yes.
Yeah. While Dwayne's getting set up, I'll set this up. We have long had discounted fares, but we've never had a way to verify that the people who use those fares are eligible for them unless they use our app. So if they're a cash paying customer, the driver really is in a position only to, if they say that they're eligible. And we've been looking for a way to rectify that, not because we are trying to kick people off the buses, but making sure that those discounts go to the people who actually qualify for them. Dwayne, do you want to come up here? Thank you. Later.
There you go. See my presentation now. Well, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's great to be with you today. So yeah, thank you, Elaine, for prefacing this presentation. We really want to present to you some staff initiatives on providing a reduced fare process update. As was mentioned, let's see here, if I can get this to move. There you go. We want to implement a reduced fare validation process for seniors, youth, and persons with disabilities that results in the elimination of fare evasion. And we also want to incentivize the technologies that we leverage on our phones, our micromobility mobility applications that will improve efficiency for the bus. That makes sense. We know that there, of all the reduced fare transactions that come to VRT, about 80% of those use cash. And without a reduced fare process for cash paying customers, our bus operators are just allowing them to board without a validation. And so there's incentive for this evasion to happen. And just as a quick reminder, here are the categories for reduced fares right now. Our older adults, 65 plus, youth 6 to 18, and our persons with disabilities, which also includes Medicare recipients. We're proposing that we apply a process to help our reduced fare bus riders receive some form of proof of their reduced fare. The first thing that we would need to direct them to is the process. And we would do that hopefully on our website, and we could use our mobility applications like UMO to promote, to contact VRT, look on our website, customer service. We would need to update social media, brochures, and create the communication materials for the public so they know how to engage in this process. The next step would actually be to help somebody who comes to us and says, I believe I qualify for a reduced fare based on whatever we've outlined. And then internally, we would need to figure out how we help them validate. So if you have a disability, currently VRT uses ADARide.com. So disabled passengers already use this for our access and beyond access services right now. So if you're trying to do that for a fixed route bus, we could leverage that platform already and get somebody through that ADA ride. Our other passengers, for example, if you're a senior, youth or even Medicare, you can show us some valid identification, and then staff would then start to issue in step 3 some form of media that then you can show a bus operator as that you qualify. We have researched a lot of different agencies who provide reduced fares, and we have found issuing a smart card is really the best way to help something with an ID, a picture ID, possibly with a expiration date, is the best way to help ensure that transactions are valid. And we all, as you know, we leverage the UMO platform, and we already leverage direct some of our passengers to UMO if customer service, and then they help some of those passengers with their validation process. We also want to re-verify these folks, right? And it means setting up a timeline for that re-verification. We've looked at several agencies, and every 5 years seems to be the touch point. We know that once somebody is qualified, as we mentioned, we want to issue them some form of media that is really easy to identify on a transit card, for example. We want these to be tap and go enabled, so they work well with our infrastructure on our buses. And then if somebody does lose a card, we want to be able to issue them a new one, but not for free. And then if you do want a digital, some form on your phone, we also can provide that. And these are really the best ways to help us ensure that evasions are going to be minimized. We wanted to actually look at youth in a couple other examples here, because our youth passengers, if we require them to get a picture ID and come down to customer service centers and get some form of a smart card, for example, what does that look like? Youth passengers usually, if between 6 to 18, might already have some form of ID if they're students at different elementary schools or junior high, high school, et cetera. And so can we work with them differently to provide them an accommodation to FlashPass? And then what does that mean for our operators, bus operators out in the field? So what we're looking at is if our youth could validate instead of every 5 years when they turn 19, and then also our seniors, 65 plus, we know that they're going to be 65 for.
They're not going to get younger.
They're not going to get younger, right? So do we need to re-verify them as we move forward? And then obviously persons with disabilities every 5 years, because some disabilities can improve, or we just want to make sure that they're squaring up as they board the bus. And this seems to be the area which is prone to the most abuse and evasion for us. So. And then for us at VRT, there's implications. And one is that we need to know how many reduced fare cards that we need to prepare for moving forward once we, initiate a launch. So we've looked at the numbers, and we know we'll need at least 2,000 to start with. We will need to purchase and procure, printers that can print an ID. We'll need to figure out a way for our reduced fare passengers to work with customer service staff, and that means staging, kiosks and getting the right infrastructure at all of our transit centers, and then it's communicating what we're trying to accomplish to the public, developing a plan that is effective and efficient and simple. And so as we work through this, we will work with communication, Jason's team to help us get this out to the public. And then we will obviously need to train staff, our customer service staff, and then any others internally who might help with the validation process. We know initially there'll probably be a big push and a heavy load for staff as we implement reduced fares, and what will that look like? And so all hands on deck. Today, we're seeking feedback from you, the board, but we also want to mention that we did present some of this to our regional advisory committee, and I think they were very supportive of what we're trying to accomplish here. We've had several internal meetings with staff, and but we want to continue to work with them to finalize and get their feedback. And then if there's a way to communicate and talk to those who are out in the field who are going to be impacted by this, I think that would be a really good thing for us to do. And finally, we're looking at timelines, and I don't want Jason to really freak out here, but what we're trying to do is really to come up with a timeline that we can realistically implement a reduced fare. And today is a presentation to you, a bullet number 2, and then we'll start getting the feedback based on your comments, and then come back to you in a couple months with a final recommendation where we've landed, and then we will start doing the work to communicate to the public, get the equipment in place, and then trainings, and then develop a soft launch date. And I don't know what this might look like in the future, but tweaks here. But the goal is to implement something and get it out in the field. We also recognize that we're looking at different technologies in the future, and whatever fare box changes in infrastructure that might be coming down the line that impact us, we recognize, and we will ensure that we can have a seamless process moving forward with vendors as they change. Technology seems to continually evolve, and so we will continually monitor how that impacts our reduced fares and our passengers moving forward. That makes sense. And with that is kind of my presentation on this open.
Any questions for Dwayne?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, so what do we currently do to verify?
Yes, that's a good question. Right now on our website, we really don't market what are the verification process. We don't outline, hey, bring your ID.
There is no verification process today, other than if you download the app and enter it, then there's a verification process through that. Otherwise, people who have cash just walk on the bus, say they are a reduced fare customer, and we've instructed our operators to accept that and not question it because it creates too many problems.
Okay.
So follow up. So I guess my question is, how much money are you looking like that? I'm looking at the cost, the ROI on this investment. I didn't really see any financial numbers other than that one. So what's it going to cost us to roll this out? And then what revenue stream are we anticipating? Are we going to grow the revenue? Because we could be totally upside down in this project. And I understand that there's a time to move something in place, but I'd like to have an idea if we're just totally upside down on it, because I
appreciate that. It's new infrastructure for us. It will cost money if we move forward. What I was going to say was that if you give us, if there are no objections today to moving forward, what we'll bring back in June are those costs and where we anticipate, what money we'd anticipate using to cover them. Once we get it up and running, the additional costs will not, there won't be much. We already have a customer service counter. They already do this work. So it will just add more work to what they do today, but it will take work away on the other end.
I guess for me, and this is how we run the city. I need to see the ROI. Does it make financial sense? And what is the ROI on the plan? And then, yeah, I would just start there. And then I
So-
guess what I'm thinking, one more thing, the cards that we're using, is it a standardized card that the discount can be applied to the card they're using to where we're not issuing two separate cards? And I do like the idea of having a student ID be sufficient on a student. I think there's several things to look at, and I guess my hope is if you do move forward looking at it, that we take all those things into consideration.
Yeah, that's what I'd say, is that this was information item for feedback. So if we're going to see this presentation again, it should include the fiscal analysis related to it. And what I would propose for efficiency, because it looks like we're scheduled to see it in June and then see it in August again for the full board, that when you come to us in June, that it, because that's 3 presentations, that's a lot of presentations. So when you come to us in June, what most folks are most interested in is the fiscal impact. I would say, unless there are large changes from what was presented today, you could leave that piece alone, but let's address the finances. And then the full board will see it when you bring it to them. Thanks.
Madam Chair,
Sure.
maybe this isn't the case, but I also wonder if for some folks that are particularly mobility challenged or cost challenged, if it might be burdensome to get to either any of these 3 main facilities, in which case maybe there are opportunities to bring process to them to some degree.
Yes, it's a great comment, and things that we've already talked about is as we do a big communications outreach, we would actually engage and go to the facilities and help them. You know, if it's a specific community, get them help to understand the process, get them started, that type of thing. Yeah, we can go out and do that for sure.
Yes, I would just like to thank you for identifying the potential issue here and address the same things that have already been stated, the cost benefit, all the rest of it. But thank you for even identifying the issue, the potential. There's something that we can be done with this.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you as well. When it comes back before us, I'd also like to see what that alternative roadmap is for youth that don't have access to student ID cards. So whether they're homeschooled or their primary school doesn't issue ID cards. So what would their pathway be? Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
You.
Okay, we're going to take a 3-minute break and then we'll start again at noon.
And there are sandwiches here and some salads for anyone who'd like some.